Okay, so it's June the 3rd. And if anybody would have been telling me that I would be doing a eulogy again in 2021, I would have said you were crazy. If anybody would have told me I was going to be doing a eulogy for a kitten that we had adopted shortly after we had lost Sam, I would say you were nuts. But this is Garfield's eulogy. I met Garfield around May 13th in our backyard. He was a stray kitten. When we lost Sam, at first, not people friendly, was Garfield. When we lost Sam on May 11th, Grandpa was like, no other cat will ever be in this house, period. Over the next moments of time, when I would place food out, Garfield would come up and start to eat and begin to trust me. One night, May 25th, after work, I picked up a cat toy that was Sam's, and I placed it outside. I just sat there with the toy being connected to the stick, the toy dragging the ground, and here comes this chubby orange ball of fluff fur, playing with the cat toy, just pouncing on it and chasing it, and I couldn't help but stay outside late that night. I knew I had the next day off, and my thoughts was I must convince Grandpa that this little guy needs a home. Well, Grandpa turned out to fall in love with Garfield very quickly. I brought him inside May 26th, about mid-morning. I placed him on Grandpa's chest, and I said, how can you say no to him? Grandpa said, oh, is this the little fella joining our family? Much to my surprise. I said, only if you say yes. He said, you got to get a vet appointment, and you got to be able to pay for him. And I said, yes, sir. He said, what's his name? And I had remembered Kenzie and my mom had visited us on May 23rd. She brought him inside for an Aunt Donna, you need a cat talk. She was slow to convince me to adopt him, and she even went as far to suggest the name Garfield. I had never seen the Garfield movies. To me, I was remembering the cartoon strip from the newspaper. So May 24th was when he decided to play and kind of get to know me better, and yes, I then fell hard for him. Our first visit to the vet to get checked and approved for the home was next. Originally, we were scheduled for a wellness exam. And when we went there and arrived, the office staff mentioned other tests to make sure he was well. They did a trim of his nails, courtesy, tested him for feline leukemia, charged for the test for blood collection. Original visit price before all this was only supposed to be $17. But since he was coming inside from being outdoors, they said other stuff was necessary. Looking back, I regret doing that leukemia test on a very small kitten, only 4 weeks old. But $67 later, we got the green light. And we got a quote-unquote game plan of what to do, when to return, and for the next following 10 to 14 days, he was going to be returning for his second worming medication, which would be this Friday. He should have been his second worming medication anyway. Now, June the 9th, he was scheduled to get his 6-week boosters. July the 27th, he was scheduled to be neutered. Well, when we get home, he was so hungry, he had kitten chow on the washer. After he ate a healthy meal, we came inside, and I was beginning to show him around his new home. At the time, I had ordered him online a on clearance kitten cage or kitten activity playpen to keep him busy when I would not be able to be around him, like working. It cost me, with a playpen, feeding dishes, and cat litter box, $116, on top of the already $67. But to me, it was worth it, because Garfield was my first cat. He was playful, and he loved being around both me and Grandpa in the house. And my mom and Cousin Penny came for their visit on Memorial Day, but before Memorial Day, we had so many cute moments with Garfield that I shared throughout Facebook and Instagram. Whether it was with Garfield sitting on the table looking at the cards and Grandpa and being like, deal me in. Or whether it was him feeding him breakfast, with him looking over at the kitten chow going, is that for me? Or whether it was the many shots of him trying to get out of the makeshift playpen that I was sold out there at Goodwill before we went and picked him up. Because getting Garfield was a huge moment. Yes, he was a stray kitten, and I didn't see him the morning of his adoption. Well, let me correct that. I seen him once, but when we came back from running our errands, I didn't see him, so I didn't think that he was going to be able to be adopted. And I was in a panic, and I had gotten Sam's old blue cage ready for him to travel to the vet. I came outdoors and I said, I guess we'll just take Peanut to the vet to get his nails and his flea worm, because I don't see Garfield. He said, what is that at the bottom of the steps? And I said, Garfield, is that you? And I'll never forget those beautiful blue eyes looking up at me and doing that light mew. At that point, I was able to put him in his new cage and take him to the vet. But back to the many moments we got to share, and you got to see the beautiful pictures. Anyway, there were so many moments that we did have that was nice and getting to know him and very exciting. I think of the time that I was out there playing with the toy on the back porch, and that's when our real getting to know you time was. To when he came in and had the food on the washer, to him seeing the cage, not just the blue cage, but the big cage that we used for Peanut for so long, but we ended up using at nighttime for little Garfield to go to bed. He was not litter trained, so he had to use, of course, the little cage, and I would clean it out, put new blankets in, wash it off with disinfectant wipes daily. He would sit on my lap, and that little smile I will forever cherish. At the vet, they recommended a flea bath with Dawn soap. We had a total of 5 baths because he would get so dirty and I would want him clean, and he was just so precious. And I was trying to litter train him, so I had a dish pan that I put shredded paper in because they advised me not to use litter. And he was just sitting in it and would look up at me and meow. And he never clawed me or bit me one time. I took a great picture of him in the bathroom where he's looking right at the camera. I advertised for cards for Grandpa using that picture, saying please send him birthday cards. And I know if you're listening out there and you're a friend or family, please do that before June 23rd, and that's what Garfield would want. There's a picture of Garfield wrapped up in a towel where he had just had his bath, and he looks just like the baby he was. He would take many a nap with Grandpa and Peanut. Slowly Peanut was adjusting to him. It was hard at first, but over time they had begun to be fast buddies. And Peanut was quite protective older brother. Although we had a very short time span together, the memories will go on forever. I think of the visit of Memorial Day with all of our family, and how he wanted to be snuggled close and held close, and they fed him milk, and some of the things I will never understand that happened, like how he took so sick so quickly. But we went to the vet on the 1st on an emergency visit. And the vet had told me at that time how weak he was, how they couldn't find a vein, that it really was not going to look good as an outcome. But I wouldn't hear that because all I heard was Garfield and home. And the most important thing to me was to get him home. So I told him I would be checking in on him at 2 o'clock. And I waited with bated breath to reach them at 2 o'clock because I worked that day. When I called, they said he was still with us. They didn't go into details of what the price would be or what they had to do or anything like that. Anyway, all I knew is when I left him, they were giving him blood glucose tablets to bring him back, she said, because his blood glucose was really low. But he was eating kitten chow and he was drinking regular milk, which I now know kittens don't need too much of either one. I blame myself a lot. But I did everything that I was advised and everything I knew how to do. I was sent home with him at 2 o'clock with strict instructions that he had to be fed every hour on the hour. He had to have water in a syringe, food in a syringe. He had to have a liquid warming bottle underneath him with a blanket under the bottom of the liquid bottle so it did not touch his skin, and then around him so there was 2 blankets. That horrible night, we stayed up together, and only at one point did I start to go to sleep, and he woke me up. He passed away on Wednesday morning at 6:20 in the morning. And that quick emergency room visit cost me $287.81, but my grandpa said to me, Donna, you couldn't have done more. And Garfield knows that. And we were talking today because I always purchase gifts and I give them to him from the animals in the house. And he told me, or it was yesterday, we were talking about how he was going to get gifts from Garfield, and he said he would wear them and he would appreciate them and he would honor Garfield as the pet that he was to our house. When you look at everything they did, and the way his arms were shaved at the end there, his little arms and everything, all I can do is tell you that I loved him so very much. I had, when you think about it, close to $500 in him. But you can't make a person live. You can only do your best. And I did my best. And then we all miss Garfield. He was the most kind, good-natured kitty cat that I've ever seen besides Sam. And at the end there, he was getting so playful with my thumb, he would use his little tiny kitty teeth to try and bat at my thumb to get my attention sometimes. It doesn't make any sense. You can try and look for reasonings why this happened the way it did. But God has his own reasonings. And even though it just about kills me to even reflect this much, I know that Garfield is in a better place. A one-of-a-kind cat for our one-of-a-kind family. I want to thank him for the smiles, for the joy and the happiness he brought us, even in that short span of time. I miss you greatly, little fella. And I love you. Rest in peace, Garfield.